Hello, my name is Cyle Hirschfeld, and today I am going to be talking to you about the United States' conduct during the Vietnam War and how and why the war is perceived as it is today. Using 3 dissertations from ProQuest, Dissertations, and Theses Global, these dissertations by John Ronald Milam, Nicholas Turse, and John A. Wood, I will explore their methodologies, the content, and their conclusions, as well as the sources that they used. Now, John Ronald Milam's Not a Gentleman's War, Junior Officers in the Vietnam War, starts from the perspective of Milam himself, who is a Vietnam vet. He uses his experiences, interviews, and surveys to refute the assertion by the Department of Defense that junior officers in Vietnam acted in an untoward manner, not befitting United States officers. He goes through the selection, the training, the evaluation of junior officers. He talks about on-the-job training in Vietnam. He goes through the rules of engagement, what follows from breaking those rules, and the discipline thereof. His conclusions are that junior officers were sufficiently trained and performed efficiently in a war that was not a gentleman's war. Unfortunately, it seems that Milam's argument is somewhat flawed. He might have been too close to the situation, even writing 30 years later, because he is letting off people who perpetrated atrocities on the argument that it's not a gentleman's war. Such atrocities as that at My Lai, where 500 Vietnamese civilians were killed. He uses questionnaires to officers, interviews with officers, government documents, film, book, and articles to support himself. Nicholas Turse's Kill Anything That Moves, U.S. War Crimes and Atrocities in Vietnam from 1965 to 1973 takes an assertion from the Department of Defense that individual soldiers are responsible for atrocities in Vietnam, and he does away with that. He says that Vietnam, the atrocities there were the result of systemic issues, and he proves this by going through 100 years of historical racialized atrocities, which he comes to call the doctrine of atrocity in the American military. He gives a striking example from World War II, where a group of American soldiers find a group of 15 to 20 German soldiers in a deep crater who are about to surrender. With great fanfare, the U.S. soldiers lined the rim of the ditch, yelling and laughing as they leveled their guns at the men below. Then, in a fit of exultation, they began firing. So this is something that is prevalent in United States military forces, this doctrine of atrocity. To some extent, Turse seems to let off those who perpetrated the events, the individual actors, in favor of his argument of this systemic issues being at the source. He uses formally classified criminal investigations documents. He uses Department of Defense analyses, and he uses veterans' testimonies, military court records, secondary source materials, all of that to help prove his argument. John A. Wood's Veteran Narratives and the Collective Memory of the Vietnam War researches veterans' memoirs, accepted and rejected, to find out if the media has an anti-Vietnam and anti-war bias. He explores the memoirs that were published, and who was the writer of that memoir, and what that person's rank was. And what he finds is that the majority of memoirists were middle-class college graduates, and on average were 27 years old when they served in Southeast Asia. While most memoirists, he argues, served as officers, nearly 90% of the troops in Vietnam were enlisted men. He charts out who is writing, who is published, and he finds that those who write were the ones in officers' roles. He concludes that mainstream editors and reviewers selected memoirs that portrayed the war in a negative manner, but rejected those that espoused either unambiguous anti- or pro-war views. He uses veteran narratives, primary and secondary sources, magazine articles, books, etc. to help him out. And these are what I found in my research. Thank you for watching. I look forward to working with you on the next video.